Hello, folks. This is Joe from MIGeekScene. I'm here at Blood Bash with author, blogger, and podcaster supreme, Stefani Manard. Stephanie, how are you doing?
I am very well, thank you. How are you today?
I am not too bad. Thank you for asking. But
You're welcome.
this interview is not about me. This is about you. So I mentioned at the beginning of this, folks, that Stephanie is an author, and I have read one of your books called Secrets Best Kept. So what is that book about?
Secrets Best Kept is really just a collection of stories of people and kind of like the monsters that they meet. Was really thinking about that today in the car when I was driving here. How do I explain this book to people? And it really is about monsters and people and how sometimes people are the monsters. So
I mean, it was a collection of short stories that you wrote with your best friend,
Yep.
Jason.
Yep, Jason Shimoleski, co-author.
That's how you pronounce his last name. Okay.
Yeah, Shimoleski. I know it's a hard one. It's very Polish.
So when I was reading it, I did notice that there was a loosely connected theme based on shedding one's skin between the story Psychopath and Skeletal. So was that intentional?
Yes. I guess I would say yes. Psychopath I originally wrote as a comic. It started off as a comic book, and I wrote it out as prose when I was doing the script. And I wanted to include that because I felt that, it was kind of an interesting back look at people who had read the comic, kind of got a little bit more of the story. And with the other story, it just kind of like connected. Maybe it was just where I was at when we were writing, but it definitely, I think that there's a connection. I don't know if it's necessarily on purpose, but I can see it.
Okay. Will there be a sequel to this book?
Absolutely. Actually, Jason and I, we're here today together. He's manning the booth right now. And we're talking about kind of what type of stories we wanted to do in this one, if we had like a direction. So we kind of have like a loose list of what we're going to be working on for the next book. And I really would love to have it out this year. That's kind of like my, that's my end game with this one.
I mean, you said you had a loose list. Was there any hints at what might be coming up story-wise?
Yeah, I'll drop a hint.
Ooh,
yeah, I know.
An exclusive on MIGeekScene.
It's juicy. So there's a story that I've been working on for several years, and I never thought it was good enough or finished. And I think it's going to be my first novella, and it's called The Spot. And I'm going to be placing this in this collection of stories, and it's kind of a ghost story in a way, and it's kind of a horror story in a different sense as well. And I don't really want to give too much away because it's
fine.
But so
it's fine.
Yeah, it's going to be the longest thing I've ever written, and it's definitely evolved and changed over the last couple of years. I'm really looking forward to finally getting it out.
Nice. And this book was published on your own publishing company, Scapegoat Press, correct?
That is correct.
So what inspired you to create Scapegoat Press, your own publishing company?
Well, I actually, you guys know Casey Pierce, obviously, because she's been on your show, and she works with Source Point, and she, Pieces of Madness, Nora. Was talking to her because I didn't really know. I knew I wanted to get into, writing comic books and writing books. I've been writing since I was a little kid. And I talked with her, and she said, okay, you can set up your own, C Corp or your S Corp and, put a name on it, and there you go. So Scapegoat Press kind of came along as, a resolution of that conversation. So thank you, Casey, for all your help.
Well, Casey served as an early mentor for me when I was just beginning to put out feelers about what would eventually become MIGeekScene. So I'm very indebted to her, and she's always been willing to give me some sound advice and stuff like that and help me out instead of looking at me as potential competition, because she used to do the whole con coverage thing too. She welcomed me with open arms. So
yeah, she's good people all around.
Excellent.
So yeah, she's definitely awesome.
So from what I understand, you are a fan of psychological horror.
Yes.
Are there any themes or subjects within that genre that you would like to cover for the upcoming book, or just in general?
Madness seems to be one of the things that I really like to write about, because I'm fascinated by the human mind and why people do the things that they do. So I think there will definitely be more stories in the future of me writing about people's descent into madness, because it's just fascinating and it's different. And I think, when you're writing a character, their motivations can change, and it's like you have this idea in your head of how something's going to go, and then you're writing it, and the character kind of takes on a life of its own. And I don't know, it's just kind of interesting. So I think, that descent into madness is going to be very prevalent in what I continue to write.
Okay. Now, have you created stories based on real life psychological horror, like surprise IRS tax audits or phone calls from Fannie Mae about student loans?
That's
psychological horror right there.
That's like the worst kind of torture. That's like torture horror. I mean, that's the worst. No, I have not. But, I wouldn't. I think taking like a normal life situation like that and writing a horror story around it would actually be really interesting.
I actually thought about filming like little shorts about that, like comedic shorts, like just obviously like someone's like crying on the couch, but like the curtains are closed, but like you see like this like white curtains and you see like the shadow go across in the background knocking like, hello, Fannie Mae, and like this person's like just cowering, like hoping that no one would find them.
You hear that Alfred Hitchcock music in the background.
No.
Yeah.
Or like open up the letter like and it just says IRS tax audit on the back. You've been selected.
That would be like if I got a letter to go to jury duty.
Oh, that's another one. I didn't even think about that one. Like I've had like extensive conversations about this, like real life psychological horror. Like when you're being a kid and you're like, you had your grandma who smoked and had like, let me get the smudge off your cheek.
No. Even just the licking, I don't care if you smoked or not. If you lick your hand and touch my face,
like, let's get that smudge off your face.
How is my face cleaner now? I don't get it. But you don't
argue with grandma about that logic
back
in the day.
You don't. You take it and you get grossed out by it and you get on with your life.
So earlier in this interview, I don't know, 5 minutes ago, you mentioned comic books. So obviously you mentioned Psychopath, which is one of your comic series now on Scapegoat Press.
Yes.
Can you talk about the series? Because now it's a trilogy, from what I understand, or at least
3
issues.
It's a 3-issue mini series. I didn't really, when I started this whole thing, I didn't know if I could go beyond 3 because it was my first comic series, and I, still being new to everything, was feeling kind of, a little nervous about it. And I'm like, okay, so I think I can do 3. And so I sat down and I, figured out, kind of like how I wanted each issue to go, how I wanted them all to connect. And the story is really just about what it takes to make a person go mad. The first issue is more about a made psychopath, not one like that would have necessarily been born that way, but circumstances kind of made this character snap.
Okay. Created psychopath. I thought you meant like a housemaid psychopath. I have not read the comic book, so I was like, well, that's actually an interesting way to...
Yeah, a created psychopath, like a situational psychopath. And then issue 2, we deal with someone that has some mental health issues, and there's, a scenario that goes on through there, but it is all connected and comes to a head in issue 3, which just came out a couple weeks ago, with Bloody Mary, who is one of my favorite things I've ever written. And she's a true psychopath. She was born that way, and she can't imagine a life not like that.
Now, will these 3 issues down the road be made into a potential trade?
Absolutely. I'm working on that right now with Josh Werner. He's giving me some help, who's with Source Point Press as well. Big shout out to Source Point Press for always being helpful to me. I really appreciate it.
Except for you, Travis. Nothing for you.
But yeah, so I'm hoping to get that collected.
Well, this feud's going to continue between Travis McIntyre and myself.
And Travis, you do owe me $1. So, I mean, love you, but you owe me $1.
I mean, I would love to continue the rest of this interview just bad-mouthing Travis, but this is more about you.
He's a good guy.
He is a good guy. No, he's good.
Yeah, so this summer, I'm hoping to have it ready and out. So,
was there a particular inspiration behind these comics?
To be honest with you, I was working with another company at the time. I didn't have my own company yet, and I was in talks with one of the owners, because I was an owner as well of this company. And we kind of, came up with this, like the general idea of Psychopath. And when I left the company, I was writing it. And so it was just kind of the first project that kind of fell into my lap. But I changed it immensely from when it originated, and kind of made it, more of my own, because when I'm writing something that I feel is directed by somebody else, it's really difficult. So I kind of had to change everything. And it does not resemble really at all what it started out to be.
Okay. Well, I did wanted to branch into more of the personal side of you. Since we're going to stick on the comic subject, what was your first exposure to comics that you remember?
X-Men. X-Men.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm like a huge X-Men nerd. And I'm not, it's crazy because I love comic books, but I was broke. I mean, super poor growing up. We didn't have money, and I didn't read my first comic books until like I was probably like, 9 or 10, and I was at a friend's house who had comic books, and they were
Nice.
X-Men comics, and I got to read them. So, I fell in love with Rogue. That's my boo. And that kind of started it. And I'm not really huge into superhero comics anymore. X-Men will always be my love, but I love what the independent community is doing now, kind of outside of the superhero stuff. And these
Agreed.
original, like Paper Girls is one of my favorites right now. Really good series. And then there's actually Huck, which is a superhero series by Mark Millar, but it's very different. It's very unique, and it takes a really cool perspective on it. So yeah, that was a little long-winded, but
No, absolutely not. I mean, I like for my interviews to be conversational, so don't feel like you have to censor yourself. Now, did you have any favorite comic book writers, whether indie or not?
Not really until I started reading indie comics like as an adult, because I didn't really pay attention. When I was a kid, I was more into like authors. Like I read a lot of books, so like book authors were kind of like my jam. So like I had favorite authors there. X-Men, I just really really loved the art, and I couldn't name anybody who was doing it at the time.
But
And
do you have any now?
now I would have to say, oh, wow, that's a good question. There's a lot of people that I enjoy, but like right now I would say Howie Noel. I would say Howie Noel is one of my favorites. He just put out a book called Float, and it deals with anxiety, and I think this has got it's got to win some kind of award. It's just epic level goodness, and for people that suffer from this kind of thing, if you get a chance to check it out, because it really makes you feel not alone in the world. It's very, very good. So he's a very good writer. It's just so funny because I'm like talking about these people and they're like my friends. It's just like weird, but they're like
No, that's
some of
cool.
my favorite writers. Casey, I think she's a fantastic writer. I definitely enjoy her work a lot. I really enjoy Dan Doherty's Touching Evil. It's a very fantastic series.
I've yet to read that. I mean, I saw the big traits that he had. He's a cool dude.
Yes, once I interviewed him, he was driving home from work in rush hour, and he managed to eat an entire burrito without me or Megan knowing. While like just doing this interview, right? And he's talking and talking and talking, and we knew he had a burrito, and then he's like, "Oh, the burrito's gone," and I'm like, "When did you eat that? Like, you're a magic human, Dan." Like, he's just good times. Good times.
No, Dan Doherty's a cool cat. So you would recommend Touching Evil by him?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. There's so much good right now in independent creation that I don't really read a lot outside of it. I don't really read Marvel or DC. Not because I don't think that there's anything good there, just because again, I'm not really big into superhero comics.
No, that's fair. But do you ever branch out to like things like Vertigo or Dark Horse and stuff like that? Like case in point, Transmetropolitan, Preacher, Walking Dead. That's another big one.
Yeah, I mean, I have like, I'm behind on The Walking Dead. I have
don't
like
feel too bad. So much.
There's so many of like it's an expensive habit when you really love comic books to keep up on stuff at times. But yeah, I mean, I definitely read.
Dude, I just go to the library.
Can you do that?
Yeah, like I mean, the library system, at least, I don't know how you guys do it up in Wyandotte, but like in the Grand Rapids area, we have like our library system, and you can check out comic books through that. I've read over 500 trades through the library thing. And then they have what's called MELCAT, the Michigan Electronic Library Catalog, that you can order comic books from all over the state and have them shipped to a library of your choosing, pick them up and just read them and return them. So I mean, yeah.
That's amazing.
Comics are an expensive habit. Like,
yeah. And I usually, I back my friends' Kickstarters because, and all that stuff. I haven't been able to lately because, I have so much going on, but I mean, I try to support everybody that I can. But I mean, it's hard to kind of keep up on everything that is going on in comics right now. But I try. I try to.
Are there any comic writers that you would like to give a shout out to? Obviously, you mentioned Casey.
I did.
But is there anyone else that you would like on the indie level, fellow creators?
Oh my god, there's so many. Trico. Even though sometimes you're a butthead, I love you and you're a really good writer. Trico Leckens, he did Jack of Spades through Source Point Press, and Tony Mielo, Gappo the Clown, super awesome. Dirk Manning, my favorite of his stuff is probably Nightmare World, and he just put out a 4th one, so it's really good. Check it out. And oh my gosh, there's so many. Eric Gutierrez, and he does Max the Inebriated Rabbit, which is degenerate.
Never heard of it, but
it's
I
degenerate,
guess I have to look
and
into
it's perfect, just the way it is. But if you like degenerate stuff, it's for you. Oh man, I have so many. Everybody else that you guys know, I love you. You're all talented.
Marvelous.
So many people.
So many out there. From now on to the next subject. Do you branch out into manga when you're reading?
I have. I read Junji Ito.
I was about to bring up Junji Ito. My goodness.
And I didn't know if I was pronouncing his name right. Is it Junji?
Junji. So from what I understand, for the basic vowels for Japanese language, for us, A-E. Oh, how dare you clear your throat?
I know.
How dare you? I'm trying to run a classy operation here.
Well, then I better not sneeze all over you because that would just ruin everything.
No, seriously, don't do that. That would suck. But no, for us, our vowels are A, E, I, O, U.
Right.
For the Japanese, pronunciation is A, E, O, U. So, Junji Ito.
That actually makes sense. I never really thought about it. I've always said Junji, so for people who have heard me say it, I apologize for saying that wrong. But
oh my God,
life goes on.
Yes, life goes on, and yes, if someone's gonna get that hung up over it, like you need to take it down a notch. It's going to be okay. Now, like if it was like the author and they corrected you, and you're like, whatever, Junji, then
right.
They have every right to be pissed off.
Yeah, he could be mad at me. I'd let him. I would hope he would forgive me.
But yeah, I was gonna bring that up. Man, you must have read these.
I actually didn't. It's funny. Your typing is so little.
Well, that's because how I printed it out. Because I was like, I want to fit this all on one piece of paper.
My eyes aren't that good.
I was like, I'm using company paper here. I want to print it all on one because I'm not gonna waste my paper. But yeah, Junji Ito stuff is so messed up. Like I read his Uzumaki.
Uzumaki is like. Probably it's my all-time favorite, and there's so much stuff that I haven't even read of his. The Hellstar Ramina is one of the ones that me and Shim were Jason. Sorry, I call him Shim because his last name's Shimaleski.
Okay.
Me and Shim were just looking at that at the booth actually because we had a little downtime, so we're checking that out. And there's so many stories, but Uzumaki is like probably my ultimate favorite. I mean, the Dissolving Classroom was good.
What about Gyo?
Oh, Gyo. I mean, I love Gyo.
I mean, they recently made that into an anime too.
I heard something about that.
Well, I saw clips from that. Like, I saw like this couple were making out, and then like the shark with the little spider legs just busted through.
So crazy.
Like that whole story was messed up. And oddly enough, it's funny that what is it about this building that I've had conversations about Junji Ito, because another guest who I've interviewed in the past, named Crystal Laporte, who's an anime voice actress, she's huge into Junji Ito too. And we just had like a long conversation about that too. So I like how I've came full circle, even if it's like almost it's been more than a year, but I've talked about Junji Ito in this building, but it must be something about this building.
Something about this boardroom. No.
Yes.
It's so fancy in here.
Yeah, we managed to snag like the mayor's office boardroom, I guess, for this interview.
Because we're fancy.
Because Joe from MIGeekScene is small time, but Stefani Manard is big time. I'm not even allowed to make eye contact with her throughout this interview. So, like, if it looks like I'm looking at her, I'm diverting my eyes elsewhere. Were there any other manga titles that you've followed or checked out?
Not consistently. I have read a few things that that Jason is, because he's way bigger into it. I've read a little bit of Full Metal Alchemist.
Oh, that's so good.
See, my problem with Full Metal Alchemist is that it was really good and I enjoyed it, but it made me depressed. There's a lot of sad things in it, and I've watched the anime.
Which one?
Brotherhood.
Oh, good choice. Did you watch all of it?
No, I had to stop watching it at a certain point because, again, it made me so sad.
But it does have a happy ending. I'm going to let you in on that.
And
spoiler.
People keep telling me that, but I'm one of those people. Okay, so I write horror. I write about sick stuff, but my heart is so soft and squishy, and I empathize so much with characters that I know aren't real. And the whole thing with the little girl and the dog, nope. I was bawling.
Well,
bawling.
I
couldn't with that.
That's completely fair. That is completely fair. So are you familiar with Dragon Ball Z?
A little bit, not a ton.
Okay, so there's this thing called the fusion in Dragon Ball Z. So where two characters, they stand side by side, and then they do this unique routine, and they end up pointing their fingers at the same time towards each other, saying fusion ha, and they point. And so someone took a shirt of that same pose, but put the little girl and the dog doing the fusion ha.
No,
and
soon.
I couldn't help but laugh at that because I was like, wow, that is such a nice reference and a nice mashup, and I couldn't help but laugh. Yeah. And I've taken photos of cosplayers dressed as the father holding like the little dog, and every time I've posted it, I would get like some sort of comment like bastard. Like on the Facebook.
It's always bastard or too soon or just why? Why though? Like seriously.
But well, I mean, if you don't want to return back to Full Metal Alchemist, I can fully understand it, but it does have a happy ending. Not for her, obviously, but
hopefully for the other characters, at least most of them. And I also liked Attack on Titan, but also had to stop watching that one because again, people were just dying too much, and I know now why. I'm not giving anything away just in case there's anybody who hasn't watched it, but
it's a good series in my opinion.
Yeah, and so I get it now, and I'm probably gonna finish that one, and I'll probably finish Brotherhood.
I would hope so. Brotherhood,
I'm a softie.
I would put Brotherhood on my recommended viewing list. I mean, along with Cowboy Bebop. So
I've watched a little bit of that, and that was because of my ex-boyfriend. And
I'm not trying to bring up bad things here. That's a quality anime, but
no, that's not bad.
I was like, if it leaves like a
I hate you, Joe. I just run out, flip the table. No, I did see a little bit because my ex was like really into it. So, it was so like jazzy and like I just felt like there was always so much going on that I like couldn't really concentrate on it.
No, that's fair.
But I loved the music, so I would definitely give that one another chance.
Yoko Kanno was the composer for that entire soundtrack, with a lot of musicians working with her, but she's amazing. I mean, Cowboy Bebop is one of my favorite anime series of all time. I have the soundtracks, I have this series. I was fortunate enough to interview Steve Bloom, who's the voice actor Spike Spiegel.
Nice.
So, oh yeah, we did terrible.
That's really cool.
We did terrible Harvey Fierstein impressions together. And for like the folks who've continuously watched my interviews, like, Jesus, Joe, stop bringing it up. You do an interview with Steve Bloom and see if you can come up with something as good as I did. And that's not being cocky. It's just like once I removed the stick from my ass, I had a lot of fun with that interview.
That's just the realness.
No, I mean, it's like over time I've started to slowly, and I'm not trying to put this on me, but obviously I'm having a conversation with you because you're a friend.
Yeah.
Over time, I've started gaining confidence in my ability to do interviews with people. Like when I first started out with Steve Bloom, I was nervous as hell because it's like, oh my goodness, this is Steve Bloom. This is the interview that I've been building up towards ever since I've started doing interviews. And then like I was nervous at first, and then I just started relaxing, and then I just started having fun with that interview. So,
yep. You got to lean into it, man. You just lean into it.
Oh, man, well, that was a game changer for me. I learned confidence while doing interviews. So now I can, obviously, I'm talking to you instead of like, yes, I'm awkward, but I'm not like, oh, my God, so you write comic books?
You're not awkward at all. You're awesome.
I'm like, how is that? I mean, it's a good thing I didn't go with the original approach. Like, I was going to totally just be mansplaining everything to her.
Well, yeah.
Like we joked about off camera.
Because according to Joe,
that is not even close to being true.
It's not true, but it's really funny. We were having a conversation about how I don't write my comic books because I'm a woman and women can't write comic books. And so, obviously it's a joke. We were laughing about it. It's funny.
But I thought about potentially just starting the interview like completely serious like that. Like, so
deadpan.
So Dollface, who really wrote the comic book that you just slapping your name all across?
Yeah.
I would never do that and mean that, folks. So please put the pitchforks down.
Yeah. No, it was really funny. I love being mansplained too. It's really fun.
No, I can't imagine that being fun.
Sarcasm.
No, but sweetheart, I'm trying to explain something to you. Maybe if you just listen a little bit, we wouldn't have this issue. My goodness. All right, I'm going to actually try to get this derailed conversation back on track. Since horror seems to be the main theme running throughout this interview, which is false now that I'm looking at this after I got done writing this whole thing out, let's talk movies. Why is Exorcist one of your favorite films of all times?
Oh man, The Exorcist is probably my favorite horror movie because it was the first horror movie that I saw that wasn't like a slasher. It wasn't super gory. It wasn't there was more of a story to it. I felt like, there's questions of faith. There's questions of, this relationship between the mother and the daughter. And when I saw this movie for the first time, it was like I was having like some struggles with religion. I grew up in a very religious household, and I'm not a religious person, and this kind of it echoed my reality at the time. Not the getting possessed thing. That didn't actually happen to me or anything, but it was a new type of horror. It was more mental. It was more of a story instead of it being like, Nightmare on Elm Street, which was the first horror movie I ever saw. And it was just like, oh, okay, so this guy comes around in your dreams and just kills you. Which slashers have their place. I do love slashers, but when I'm looking for serious horror, I need like a story, like The Void, or The Witch, or The Exorcist, something with a really unique take on horror. Those are my favorite.
Oh, so I take it those movies that you just mentioned are some of your favorites?
Yes. The Witch was just beautiful. It was beautifully shot, beautifully written, and I think it was true horror to me. And a lot of people thought it was boring and they didn't get it, and that's cool. Like I understand, but that's my jam. It was historically accurate, and it built suspense, and it was just a very, very well made movie. And The Void is very Lovecraftian and Hellraiser-ish at the same time, so it was very, very good, well shot, and the ending scene is just so intense, man.
I've not seen either of the movies. Anything that you've just mentioned. I caught some Nightmare on Elm Street back in the day, but like growing up, I've never been a big fan of horror because it scares me, and
yeah,
that's what it is.
Life is scary, man, and I think for some people, horror is like an escape from the things that we find scarier, in real life. Horror. I mean, I was raised on it, and it used to scare me, and now I leaned into it. Like you leaned into, your confidence in your interview. I leaned into horror, and I haven't looked back, and I'm very glad that I did.
Now, when I do look back at some of the old horror films, I look at them as I can appreciate like the cheesy, campy ones, which leads us into our next topic.
Woo!
B-movies.
B-movies.
So, what are some of your favorite B-movies?
Well, I mean, I was in one of my favorite B movies.
Oh, no. I'm going to touch upon that a little bit later. Okay,
all
Miss
right,
Psychic. I'm going to call you Dionne Warwick.
Oh, that's what friends are for.
For $3.99 a minute.
Okay, so favorite B movies. Oh man, like anything John Waters, obviously. Desperate Living was like one of the first John Waters movies that I ever saw, and it's one of his most like radical in my opinion, and it was just so trashy and so corny and so campy, but it was amazing. And I love John Waters, and anything with David Hayes in it is always a good time.
So, I mean, any other favorite B movies?
Gosh, it's hard to think of like off the top of my head. If I think of one, I'll just scream it into my microphone
Okay,
like an adult.
gently into the night. But that begs the question, because I've been bugging you about this for, I don't know, months, but have you finally checked out the 3 movies I suggested? Hard Ticket to Hawaii, Ricky-O, A Story of Ricky, and Machine Girl.
No, I think I started watching Machine Girl, and then for some reason I had to like stop watching it, and I never went back to it. The other two I haven't even attempted yet. And the
I
worst,
had plans for like this interview to have discussions on camera, and this wounds me so. How dare you be busy with your life and not put aside everything just to watch 3 great B movies?
I mean, like I love a good B movie. I really do.
I think you'll like these 2, these 3.
Yeah, I need to get back to Machine Girl, because I know I think I got about like 25 minutes in.
It's a slow burn at first, but once it kicks in, it's just redonkulous. But you definitely should watch Ricky-O, A Story of Ricky, because that is one of the goriest kung fu movies ever. Like, his fist goes through people. First punch he did went through like a dude's like rib cage, I mean stomach. Sorry, second punch was a dude's rib cage. So
Wow.
oh, it's great. It's so bad, and like the dubbing for it is horrible, but that's what adds to it.
Gotta love it.
So you did mention that you were in a movie. I guess we
Yeah.
could talk about this. Let's talk about your role in UFO, The Otis Files.
That gem, that classic B movie gem that just came out not that long ago. Trico was the director, or the writer. Sorry, he didn't direct. He wrote it, and he asked me to be in it. My character is a like kind of just like a slutty secretary that works for the mayor, and who's clearly having an affair with the mayor. I love Trico. He keeps casting me like in roles where I have to play somebody a little skanky.
Yeah.
I'm like, thanks, dude.
I totally get that vibe off of you whenever I talk to
I
you
know.
at events.
It exudes from me, but so yeah, it was a lot of fun actually to do. It was my first. I've acted in like plays and stuff, nothing like serious.
Oh, really? I
but
never knew that.
yeah, like I came up doing plays. I started doing them in like elementary school, and did some community theater and stuff like that, and choir and all that fun stuff. So I've always liked doing it, but then after I got out of high school, I just kind of got shy, and I started getting nervous in front of people, like acting and singing and doing that. So I kind of just put it to the side, and I'm finding that confidence again. I actually did a short film called Cannabis Cannibals, which is hopefully going to be in some festivals coming up here soon, and I have like a lead role in that, which is really cool. And
please explain the premise behind this film.
Well, it's about these friends who are having a barbecue, and one of the guys invites over this dude that none of them out, the rest of them don't really know him, and they're like, all they want to do is get high and like barbecue. And so this guy shows up, and he doesn't bring any weed, he doesn't bring any food, he just comes there and smokes all their weed, and he's a total douche. So stuff happens, and he may or may not get eaten. I couldn't tell you. I mean, the title is Cannabis Cannibals, so
So let's go. All right. So let's go back to the Otis Files real quick. What is that movie about?
It's it's about a gentleman who finds a refined gentleman.
If you're referring to David C. Hayes, I don't know how refined we can get.
Very refined, very in love with Angela Lansbury.
Regal.
Exactly. He finds some alien poop. Well, what he's convinced is alien poop. So it's kind of like a documentary about Otis and this whole was it really an alien that he thought he saw? Is this alien poop? It covers a lot of really hard-hitting questions. Really hard-hitting questions.
It looks like quite the serious drama movie from the trailer.
Very, very serious.
Extremely serious, just like this interview.
Yes.
Well, we'll go on to other things about you. I am very happy that you are a gamer.
Yes, I love video games.
So, favorite games of all time?
Ooh, Dino Crisis 1 and 2
Ooh,
are at the top
okay.
of my list.
Okay, for the PlayStation from Capcom.
Yeah, Dino Crisis 2, I think, beats 1 out only because I really loved the weapon system where you could go into an upgrade and buy your bullets and all that stuff because you couldn't do that in the first one. So I really like that system. And you could go back in and out of screens and get like the combos to get more points so that you could buy like all the weapons and the okay, I'm getting too detailed.
No.
I really loved that whole system in Dino Crisis 2. A huge fan of Resident Evil, obviously. The first one and 1 and 3 are my favorites.
Wow. Not 2? 2's not included in that?
Well, I like 2, but it's just not favorite-wise. I think 1 and 3
Fair enough.
would be my 2 favorites out of all of the ones in the series. Oh gosh.
So how'd you feel like after 4 and on?
I felt like they kind of got away from what I liked about the series. So like I played up until 5. And I thought 5 was really beautiful, and I thought it was like a fun game, and I never beat it because I didn't buy it. I played it over at a friend's house. And I thought it was like a good game, but it didn't feel like a Resident Evil game to me. And so once I played that, I haven't gone back to anything, but I'm going to be playing 7.
I heard that went a return to the roots for survival horror.
Yeah.
Because I get 4, from what I understand, it went from 1 through 3. And I guess you can count Resident Evil 0 if you've ever played that for the GameCube, I want to say. Resident Evil 0, which was like a kind of like it was spaced between 1 and 2, or I think it was happening at the same time that 1 was happening. I played it. It was not bad.
Code Veronica was really good on the Dreamcast. But you know what? I got stuck at a spot, and I had to go back to the beginning of the game. I had to restart, and I was I had almost beaten the game, and I just wanted to like slam my head on a wall.
I came close to beating the game, but then I stopped because I had to face off against that giant spider boss under the ice, and I'm like, nope, I don't like spiders. Not dealing with this. This is total BS. It's like what the thing. I hate spiders, but I hate the fact that like gaming companies keep making the spiders more and more realistic. I'm like, no, keep them cartoony so I can play them, please. My arachnophobia is like, I realize it's a game, but I'm just like, I can't handle this.
I understand. I'm afraid of heights, and I was out at a bar the other day, and there was a TV right by my head, like up to the left, and it was this dude like walking on the edge of the top of a building, and I had to move away from the TV. Like, I knew that I wasn't gonna fall. I felt like I was going to fall because I'm watching this guy do that. It's like when you have a very real fear like that, even though you know that it's not real, it messes with your head. So I totally get it.
Ugh. But Code Veronica was a good game.
It was. It was a little tough, but
it was one of the last few survival horrors. But once 4 kicked in, then they went to the action horror.
Yeah.
I mean, I really enjoyed 4. I never played 5, 6. Or anything like that. I guess I stopped at 4, you know. I really enjoyed that. That was fun, but there was nowhere near as many scares as in the earlier games. At least that's how I feel.
Yeah, I know, I agree. I mean, I just remember playing I remember playing Resident Evil 2, and I just like the first time they showed like the tongue licker guy, just like losing my mind. And I'm like in a house, it's daylight, you know, I'm safe. But I'm like, this thing's gonna come out it's gonna kill me. I'm gonna die. Oh. It was so terrifying.
Or what about when Nemesis showed up in 3 and he was chasing you throughout like random?
Stars.
And I'm like, oh no!
And you would just break through a wall like the Kool-Aid man. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to get things done here. Can you just leave me alone for 5 seconds?
I never put the connection together between the Nemesis and the Kool-Aid man.
I really wanted to like, you know, if I had any ability to do like graphics, I would totally like, you know, do a scene where instead of Nemesis coming through, it was the Kool-Aid man, and he would just be like,
oh yeah, stars.
If that's out there anywhere, somebody needs to email.
Make at least a mod of that. Were there any other favorite games? Oh, dude, I
Yeah.
can talk gaming all day.
Oh yeah, no, I'm still like I loved Doom, the original Doom on the computer. I play a lot more PC now than I do console. Right now I'm playing Splatoon 2, which is so much fun. I play it like literally every day. Uh clearly I have such a busy life. Uh and the new Super Mario for the Switch is pretty cool. And oh, what else was I playing? I play Diablo 3 still.
Okay.
I have like, Reapers, like all the new stuff for that. Nothing new has come out in a while, but love Diablo 3, especially when I get to play with my friends. That's always exciting. And those are like some of my newer favorites.
So are there any upcoming games that you're looking forward to? Have you finally played the Cuphead?
I have not played Cuphead yet.
Played a little bit of it.
Everybody that I know that has it, because like one of my best friends owns it, and she's like, I'm getting so like I keep dying and I'm getting so angry at this game, and every time I go over there to hang out with her, I just don't play it because I'm like, I don't like getting frustrated like that around my friends. Like if I'm at home alone, like I'll yell at my TV and be like, but like when I'm around people, I don't want to. I'm a sweet, gentle soul.
So do you rage often when you're gaming?
It depends on what I'm playing. If it's a shooter, I do sometimes get a little intense. I used to play Halo. Halo 2 is my favorite in the franchise, and I would play online all the time, and I was really good at it. And I think I started getting a little ragey because, are you laughing at me? I'm just kidding. I started getting a little ragey because I was a girl that was playing it. I was constantly being talked down to.
Oh.
And then I would, get on my headset and they'd find out that they were getting slaughtered by a girl, and that shut them up real quick.
To answer your initial question, yes, I was laughing at you. But no,
you're forgiven. It's fine.
No, I mean, well, that's pretty crappy to, well, you're supposed to have this specific role because you're a gender. You can't. Because granted, yeah, I was joking about mansplaining, but that's absolutely ridiculous. You're like,
Yeah.
if you're stepping into the game, then I expect, you're on even ground until you start whomping my ass, and then I'm like, you are way better than I could hope to be. Like, first-person shooters, I might as well forget it. My brother used to toast me and smoke me in GoldenEye 64.
Oh my God, that game was brutal as hell too, because
I don't have the coordination for it.
I never got good at that game. I just got slaughtered too.
Like, he set me up good. Like,
Yeah.
I was chasing after him, ran into the room, bunch of proximity mines just lined up in this whole hallway. I was done.
No, that's horrible.
Never set foot into first-person shooters ever again.
Yeah, I don't really play any anymore except for Splatoon 2, but
Okay.
I used to play Halo 2 all the
But
time.
any upcoming games that you're looking forward to?
Yes, there is a new computer game coming out. There was one, I don't know if you've ever heard of it. There was a game called Theme Hospital.
I think it's an indie game. I think is it an indie game?
Yeah, it was.
I think I've seen footage. At least a trailer of that.
Yeah, there was a game called Theme Hospital, and it came out in the 90s, and they're doing an updated version of it. And it has a new name, and I can't remember what the name is, but it's basically like it's a simulation game, and you run a hospital. And I know it sounds really boring, but it isn't. And so you have to do research to figure out how to cure these diseases, and they're all ridiculous diseases, and everything is so goofy and over the top. It is a lot of fun.
Oh.
So that's going to be coming out later this year, and I am stoked because you can't play Theme Hospital on anything above Vista anymore. There's no, and I had an old computer that I was playing it on, but then it just started to act up. The game did, so I just had to kind of chuck it, and now I got a whole new game coming out for me to play. So I'm excited.
Does it give you the option to be the CEO of the hospital and purposely understaff the hospital so you can collect more money to go into your bonuses each year?
I don't know if that's a feature, but
like in real life.
Yeah,
so.
I was gonna say, maybe we'll see. I'm looking forward to it. I think they haven't given the official release date, but I think it's going to be toward the end of this year.
Okay.
And you can get it through Steam, and I'll let you know the name.
Steam is so wonderful.
Yeah, I'll let you know the name of the game. I'll have to look it up because
It's not going to be called Theme Hospital.
It will not be called Theme Hospital anymore. It's called. It's a 3-word title. I don't know.
I hope it has an accurate representation of the emergency department too, where people are coming in for things that aren't medical emergencies: dental pain, pregnancy check, STD check. You know,
Well, I mean, I feel like if you think you have an STD, like that's pretty much that's an emergency.
no, it is all right. No, it is not. Emergent conditions, while it sucks that you have an STD, you are not going to pass away from that. You can go to your primary care physician. You can go to the free clinic. These are cheaper options than going to the emergency department for an STD check. You know, they're going to write you a script, send you on your way, and you're going to be, if you choose to pay it, you'll be paying like a massive bill for this that you can. This is a rant that I did not mean to bring out.
No,
this is my fault.
It's totally okay.
I work in an emergency department, so.
I understand. I will shut my mouth hole on this subject.
I was hoping you would do that for this whole interview and let me just talk. Okay, sweetheart, thank you very much.
Yeah,
oh my goodness, I cannot believe I did that again. So let's go into the final subject of this already long and fun interview, though. You know, I don't care about the length. I don't even know why I mentioned it. But let's talk about your podcast, Welcome to the Way Station and Shots of History. So how are those two different?
The Way Station is really about indie creators. So we do like the first hour is we talk about like, you know, current events, things that are going on in the world that are interesting, like, you know, new video games that are coming up, whatever, pop culture stuff. The second hour we spend interviewing somebody in that does independent creation. It doesn't have to be comics or writing. We've had filmmakers, documentary makers, you know, people who do music, books, comics, anybody who's independent, we try to get on and try to just give them a platform, you know, to speak about their work. Because it's hard, you know, when you're an independent creator to get your work out there. And no matter how much you do like social media stuff and like, you know, go to conventions and do whatever, you know, any help we can get, we'll take it.
Oh, for sure.
So that's what the Way Station is. And Shot of History is just... Shot of History is a blast. We do a shot and we talk about history. It gets really silly because it's me and Big Dev, who also is associated with Source Point Press. I feel like everybody I know is like connected to Source Point Press.
Except for this guy right here. I'm an independent soul.
I'm a lone wolf
who does his own thing.
But yeah,
I don't want to be owned by a big money McIntyre. Another dig at Travis. So
and right in there.
And Trico's on this podcast as well.
Trico actually recently had to leave the show.
What?
Yes. And we did decide that we were going to keep doing the show because me and Dev really love doing the show and we have a really good chemistry and the show is doing really well. And so we don't want to give up on it because we both have this, you know, this great love for history and we, you know, we get along really well. And so we're probably going to just be doing like rotating guests because we were looking for like a permanent third person, but in our hearts we really feel like we can't replace Trico and we don't want to replace him. So we have a lot of friends who are smart and funny and really want to like be a part of the show. We didn't want to cut anybody out. So this way, if we have rotating guests, you know, hosts, then everybody can kind of play in the sandbox with us. And it's a fun sandbox to be in. So.
I did enjoy the 2 episodes on blaxploitation films.
Yeah, that was with Kelvin Moore, who actually just did a few shows with us for Black History Month last month.
Okay.
Or well, this month still. Yeah, it's February.
February.
I'm already in March, dude. Like I don't know where my head's. I need more coffee, Joe.
If I was in March, I'd be panicking because of how much research I still have to do for upcoming interviews. So why is podcasting important to you?
You know,
I know the hard-hitting questions.
Yeah, podcasting is, it's kind of fun and it gets me out of my shell because I, believe it or not, and you know, I tell this to people all the time, I'm actually very like introverted and I'm not very, it takes a lot for me to like go up to a new person and talk to them. When I podcast, I'm able to just be myself and I don't have to worry about, I don't get nervous about talking to new people. I'm behind a microphone, I'm doing a job. And so it allows me that freedom. And, you know, so like if you ever like see me at a convention and I'm not really talking to people, it's not because I'm stuck up or anything like that. Like I just get really nervous. Like I just introduced myself today to Travis's brother, and I had seen him last weekend at Astronomicon, but I was nervous to introduce myself because I didn't know him. And now we're buds. Everything's cool. But
That's the guy with the beard.
yes, the guy with the beard.
I must destroy him to get back at Travis.
Sorry.
McIntyre, you brought this on yourself. People are gonna think like we have this blood feud going on.
I know, it's riveting stuff here. But yeah, so I mean, for me, it's just a way to be. I used to be very outgoing and I used to be more sociable, and it's a way for me to kind of like break through, those fear barriers that I kind of built up over the years, and to do the thing, to do something exciting and to have fun and to just kind of be myself, really. I mean, plus, the podcast studio that I have, that I go to is, we have a full bar there. So, I mean, that also helps.
Okay.
Me love podcasting. There's always Crown Royal there for me.
Will Drunk Dorks come back?
No, Drunk Dorks is, unfortunately, we had a good run, and I wouldn't be doing it. Honestly, Drunk Dorks started everything for me. It started my podcasting. It started my blogging. It started me writing comics because I got my job with the production company that I got due to what I was doing with Drunk Dorks. So I really owe everything to them. And, Brett and Jason and Rico we're all kind of doing our own thing now. Me and Shem are doing the writing thing. Brett and Rico are doing a lot of gaming on Twitch, and they have I think it's called the Brett and Rico Power Hour is their new podcast. And that's on YouTube, so you can check that out. But yeah, I think we're still friends. We just are, we had our run, and now we're just kind of doing our thing.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Now we're going to the final 3 questions of this interview.
Okay.
What's next for you?
We
already talked about the sequel.
Yeah. I have a comic in production right now called The Last Heist, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be publishing it or if it's going to be coming out through another publisher. I'm looking for a wider audience for this one because it's a one-shot horror Western, and it's beautiful. And I'm not saying this because I wrote it. I'm saying it because I hired some very talented people to work on it that are making my words look beautiful.
Nice.
So I really want to get it out to as many people as possible. So that will be out. That'll be out before the summer because it's already in production. I have a couple of movies I'll be working on this summer or spring, summer. And then I have a series that I'm trying to finish writing before I put into production called The Aeonian. And it's definitely horror, but it's like kind of like a horror drama. And it kind of looks at the question of what would you do with your life if you knew that you weren't going to die?
The implications from that alone.
Yeah. And how far would you go to sustain your endless life?
Because actually what was it? What was the Mark Miller comic that was made into a terrible movie with spilling bullets? Wanted, yeah. So you read that?
I haven't read it. I saw the movie.
Oh,
I saw the terrible movie.
No, read the comic because it's completely different. So
okay, I'll check it out.
One of the villains in there, like he found out that he was, because he used to be I believe a preacher, and then when he found out that he got transformed into a skeleton, and then he found out that he was immortal, he's like, well, I don't need morals anymore. So
yeah, it's a really interesting question, I think, to ask. Like, if you no longer have a fear of death, what happens to you? Like, and how quickly do you get jaded? Do you get jaded? And then what do you do with yourself when you become jaded? So that's what the Aeonian kind of looks at. And it's going to be a 4-issue arc, and I do foresee it going further.
Nice.
So I think it's going to be an ongoing series. So I'm really, really excited about that one.
I'm here at the ground level finding out about this.
Yes, you are.
So before you get big time, I'm like, hey, can we get another interview?
I will never big time anybody. I'm always going to be a huge nerd, and I love my nerd community here.
So if people wanted to find out more about you online, where could they go?
Your best bet would be StefaniManard.com. That's Stephanie with an F and an I, no E, Stefani.
I'm going to put the link in the description.
Okay, perfect. So I don't have to explain it. And yeah, Menard with an A, not an E. If you go there, I think there's links to like my Twitter, my Instagram, my Facebook, all that, and then anything like the store updates on like conventions. It's the one-stop shop for Stefani Manard news.
And final question, what would you like to say to your fans?
Oh my gosh, to all two of you, thank you so much for reading my comics and my books. No, honestly, I'm just really I've always wanted to be a writer, so the fact that anybody has read anything that I've written really means a lot to me. And I've had some really positive reviews on some things, and just thank you so much for letting me do what I love doing, and for not being completely grossed out by the things that I write.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Fair enough. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, this was a long time coming, because there was an event I think I had to skip out on that I was hoping to meet you at, but I wasn't able to have the interview done in time, and I had to end up skipping out on it anyways because I think I had to work that weekend. So I was like, I guess I won't see her. But then I saved it, and I was like, oh, you're going to be at this event. Nice. But
Nice.
but this was definitely well worth the wait, so I do appreciate the interview that you granted me. So with that being said, folks, this is Joe from MIGeekScene. I'm here at Blood Bash with Stefani Manard. Take it easy.